We are back here at Deadlock Fight Night. That's right, number 30. It's been 30 shows. ZP here with Jake and DDK. And Jake, VP, once more, going to be challenging for the crown here in Europe. But the competition against Abrahams, it's been pretty stiff, especially in the last few weeks.
Yeah, it's a compelling win for them. I think they kind of showcased everything you wanted to see to them, which is like the hero flexibility, keeping up with a rapidly changing meta and very well executed team fights, not really giving up their advantage. Once they got it, they just built it bigger and bigger and bigger. A couple big team fights come in and one win, we're just stuck grasping at straws. It feels like really rough for them to get back into the game. Maybe a drafting issue though, and that's where Abrahams has been very consistently ahead. They've been a real leader in terms of determining the meta, what's the top prio characters. In the last few weeks, we'll see if the patch changes any of that.
Yeah, I can add something quickly to that. Like one win, normally when you watch in the past when they were winning, you'd watch a 1-win game, they get that early advantage and then they get another conversion into the super early mid game off the initial Guardians into the jungle invades. But they found zero value there this time. And I feel like that's to me where I was like, oh, okay, this is different. And this is why everything slipped away.
Well, it's not slipping away. The Abrahams roster are current champions here in EU. And you want to talk about, the recipe that makes the special sauce. Well, you have to say they took a few different roster iterations, but seemingly the big piece that really pulled it all together was when Abrahams added in Hoot, longtime player in the EU scene, kind of floating around different teams, and eventually finds his way over the Abrahams. Super versatile and originally stood out as Bebop, but now has shown to be able to play so much more. Most recently, Jake, one of the most locked down calicos in the entire game.
Yeah, I think Taz is another superstar for this squad. I mean, across the board, really, they've impressed me. I feel like we've seen tons of versatility from the players. We've seen some really impressive late game farm performances from Jamside, who gets way out ahead of the game. And Saint has been playing some very interesting support characters, playing a style that I don't think many teams would be able to replicate, and looking very solid where maybe other teams, their supports are a little more limited in terms of that hero pool. So curious to see if the Sevens, the Hayes supports end up coming out here in this draft. What the prios end up being if Abrahams wants to match. And historically, they have challenged for the Geist and the Yamatos in this VP matchup. So I think this will be a pretty interesting head-to-head.
I'm very excited for this one. I think, like I said before we went to break, to me, this match represents two teams that are somewhat similar in what they're good at. And so where you see edges, won and lost is very, very interesting. And it makes the draft itself also very interesting because, again, like I said in the previous iterations of the VP 1-win rivalry, the draft wasn't contested in quite the same way. So I feel like there's more creativity that's required for both of these teams. And we'll see. We'll see how they are interpreting what should be valued against not just the current meta, but against one another as well.
Here's what I think. I think Abrahams and what they're good at, I do think they have some weak points here. And also with Wraith getting nerfed, I think the weak points are a little bit more severe. I think if I was doing a game plan against Abrahams, number one, I think you take Shiv away from them. Together has been, in basically all recent matches that Abrahams have won, it has been Together on the Shiv, and he's very comfortable on that hero. They play really well around it. I think you take the Shiv away either by banning it or playing it. That's number one. And number two, I think Jamside also has at times had the same issue where Jamside looks really good on Wraith and Infernus, but now that Wraith has taken a hit, I think if you're VP, you go in here, I think you take the Infernus earlier if you're VP, not only because I think Infernus is quite good right now, especially in a vacuum with the hits to Wraith, but the fact that getting Jamside on a non-Wraith, non-Infernus hero, I think is a big, big win for VP if they choose to deny in that way, Jake.
Yeah, that could be true, but in the end, there's Mirage, there's other options, I think. So it's hard to prio the draft. There's also things that you want, like the Geist and the Yamato. That so I honestly don't expect these teams to be block picking each other too much. I think it's going to be more of a race for the top prio choices. And this is a big opportunity now for Abrahams. I think the Geist first pick was pretty predictable here, but Abrahams could get Mirage +1 here, which I think is a nice start. Maybe Mirage and Yamato, although I'm not saying there's not a ton of synergy there, so it's sort of interesting how you want to approach this. Do you want to play more of those long range backline carries, or play for the heavy chase down with the Yamato?
Bound to fight.
All right.
Seems like heavy chase down, maybe a Yamato follow up wouldn't shock me here as far as the openers.
I love it. I love the Giga Chat aura that Yamato has, you know, because it's kind of unique when you like pop the shadow transformation and like it's like kind of untouchable.
Run.
I love that. I love that in this game. So hopefully, yeah, we get the Yamato as a follow-up and it becomes a bit more standard in the meta right now.
So you need a
Oh, it's a Shiv though.
Yeah,
Similar story though, right? In terms of the potential to chase things down and hunt kills. I don't mind Shiv with the Warden either, because Warden often can get people quite low, and then Shiv can capitalize on that moment when you try to fall back and kite the Warden. You're letting Shiv have a lot of free time to regroup.
Yeah, I look at this and I think Abraham's, because of their reliance on Shiv, they tend to have to, like, other teams will pick Shiv a little bit later. Abraham's, they're so keyed in on playing it that they have to pick it early no matter what. I don't think they wanted to deal with a scenario where there's like a mid-stage ban that denied it. Warden coming up is interesting. I would expect for VP here, this may be a Sinclair that comes in. I think Sinclair has not only been more highly valued recently just because of the early lane presence, but generally speaking, still kind of maintains that niche of being a pretty good, quasi counter pick the Warden. It doesn't instantly make Warden bad, but I think it
Could steal the Kelvin though.
Today
They could.
isn't the day.
Oh,
But
Vindicta. Okay. I actually like the Vindicta here. I think it's pretty hard for Warden and Shiv to get on top of Vindicta due to just her inherent mobility. And I think the range catch can be really annoying, right? Like you don't really want to be building debuff remover on Warden. You can, but I think you may be forced to this game, which I think is already going to be a win for Vindicta, like pinning people down and kiting back, which right now VP has a comp that looks very sick at just kiting back in these late game team fights. You do give up the Kelvin, which I think is a little scary here for VP. You get caught in a dome, you're in big trouble, but this is like a bit of a one and done all in rush type of a team fight that's brewing for Abrahams. And I'm a little worried, right? Vindicta slips away, Mirage, tornadoes away, or Geist maybe just has the ulti to survive just long enough that she ends up being tanky here.
Yeah, I like VP's roster a lot, especially the Mirage. I think is so nice because the punchy damage is something that scales super well, and I think both against Warden and Shiv, just like you said, Jake, it feels a lot easier for VP to find consistent damage in fights. That will probably be more beneficial for them on the whole. Abraham's requiring a bit more setup there. So I like the range the VP has a lot right now, but they just need something that can kind of get in between. I think the Vindicta, Mirage, and Guy. Well, not Guy.
Ban the
obviously
Infernus.
a bit closer range,
That's what I think here. No, they banned the Haze. Interesting. Okay, so they get rid. Yeah.
I was gonna say, I think the Haze is actually a good pick for Abrahams. I would love to see like a Mo for Abrahams. They need some very hard lockdown, I think, in short order to be able to catch some of these VP characters. I think all three of those characters that VP have picked, you need to hard stun lock them down so they can't escape. And Mo, to me, fills that order. Maybe you could do the Lash as a similar story, though, giving maybe some of that same level of value.
You're about to watch my greatest trick.
So Abrahams goes for the Sinclair. They don't want to deal with VP potentially grabbing Sinclair. They go against the Warden, but now in response, I feel like they give up potentially some pretty serious power here by doing so. I mean, they help secure the early lanes. One thing you know about VP is that they do like picking Infernus for their own benefits against Shiv lanes. And what we've seen is that they're going to be very aggressive in trying to do swaps to make sure that they get a good matchup versus Shiv Kelvin lane, which is why maybe they feared it less.
Well,
Lash comes in, going to be played by Sharik in all likelihood. We'll see what the next hero they pick here is, but
I don't think you can play Infernus here. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think with the rest of your team, like Vindicta, Mirage, or heroes that run away as the fight starts and kind of kite back, and Infernus wants a lot of teammates who go in for him and allow him to like stay aggressive and attack and go ulti in and things like that. And I just don't see that team fight. But okay, I'm wrong. VP are still going to go for it. I mean, and maybe Infernus, he could go for like maybe a little bit more of like get like the max charge build, so he's able to like kite out a lot of these fights. And in the end, Abraham's, they're running a
toxic pick is. It's Dynamo.
What's your
VP?
Dynamo?
Oh. No,
it's kind of interesting, but I think Sinclair is too scary to be picking it into. I think you're just too.
Sorry to interrupt you with that garbage.
I think it's a good idea, actually. Honestly, like I think Abrahams has a very stacked comp in terms of grouping up, and I love the Bebop choice. I almost still want the Mo. I want like even more lockdown and catch. I feel like that's just how you win this game on Abrahams is you lock down these VP heroes. They have no save, no tankiness, zero ability to survive getting hard lockdown. And so Bebop, the hook can be that. Sinclair with the Hex can be that. But I would love to see more. And that is interesting. That's a good way to lock some players down. It sort of counters the tornado if you can get it off early enough.
Yeah, I mean, she did show up a little bit earlier today in EU. It is not a troll pick, although I will say the first time I saw the McGinnis pick come up earlier, I was like, whoa, wait a second, that's a jump scare, because there actually was a jump scare where in draft on the one-win side, you saw McGinnis like, no, not actually the heroes. So when it actually came in for real, you know, it's a little bit interesting, but Pocket could be the final pick for VP.
Is it a gun carry build for McGinnis? Is that the what are people building? Because we haven't seen McGinnis in so long. In this draft, I feel like it probably needs to be a gun carry, because I don't think that's sort of the hole they have in the draft.
I did not see the full thing. I saw it right before taking a nap, so I could actually be awake for the DFN side. So I'm not entirely sure. You know, if chat wants to weigh in on if it was effective or not, by all means. But also, we got Parzival at the sub, of course. Parzival, coach over on the Abraham side. So always appreciate there. But, you know, Dan, the stage is set, and you take a look at the teams here. VP, they're kind of saying, we're good with one frontliner in Geist, and otherwise, we're just going to dance around the entire time. Look for more chaotic fights rather than more of the in-your-face death ball.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I'm really curious how it's going to work out. You know, I've been wondering with McGinnis for a while, because, you know, I haven't been in the lab or anything to try to figure out like what builds could even make sense. Because obviously since the item change, I felt like you have to, you know, throw away all of our kind of preconceptions, obviously, on how we value anything. So I was wondering, is it a matter of time until maybe McGinnis is a bit more viable than maybe we think? Because if you're a team right now, that's like going to be a go-to edge if you can kind of figure that out first. And so, yeah, super curious to see how that actually plays into this. I do think the ranges of VP with the Mirage Vindicta are still kind of nice. And I feel like Pocket kind of does serve a great purpose in terms of just like getting that nice AoE damage in the close ranges. I think that's going to work really nicely against this like more kind of brawly comp that we have from Abrahams. I like that. But I don't know, VP, I'm not convinced fully with their roster. It feels like they are missing still some tanking, some frontline at all. They haven't really gone in that direction. So I'm curious how that's going to work out for them.
It's definitely an interesting choice. I kind of think it's better to have like basically zero frontline than to have just one, right? If you just have like an Abrams in this roster, he's just going to get absolutely focus fired and melted, right? Just like unplayable. And so just having the whole team be like long range, if you can get up to the farm level where your damage is really a problem and Abrahams can't walk up to you, I think you're in a good spot. But I almost like the McGinnis as the sixth pick here for Abrahams, because this is just like they will be trying to end the game pretty early here. And I think McGinnis is a bit of a gamble in that sense. If you fail in some of your early walker pushes, you could end up throwing away a big lead and VP could get a huge comeback. But by the same token, if VP like are defending towers, I feel like it's a little scary for them. I mean, they have the Lash ulti, which could be nice, but I can see a world where Abrahams is just full running over you once they have like a 10K lead in the mid game.
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea when you're running something like VP is that you're looking to be mobile, you're looking to like take small advantages across the map. Ideally, you avoid death balls as much as possible, but you know, really to the heart of your point is that if Abrahams ends up ahead, where if you're running a good front line and you end up 10 to 15K ahead, you then get to force fights, and VP has very little good options to deal with it. But you know, Jake, we're taking a look here at the lanes as they've opened up here. The Shiv, Kelvin goes over to the left. How many lane swaps do you think we're going to see here from VP?
I don't know if they're going to lane swap. I think maybe the Infernus is the laner you want against Lash. But I'm more worried about this side lane we're watching right now. I mean, Warden and McGinnis are kind of getting toasted here. Lash and Geist have tons of spam, so they're gonna need a lot of heals from this McGinnis, but her cooldowns aren't gonna be up that much, and some of these healing sustain items have been pretty heavily nerfed.
Yeah, McGinnis as a hero seems to be in this weird place where maybe the devs are like not entirely sure how, like, if they should even just change some abilities completely. It's kind of almost how I feel about it. I don't know if that's where what your guys' read is on it, where like, is this a hero that needs to be redesigned totally?
It's hard to say, because I feel like to an extent, if you're the last developers, it would go, well, we have so many experiences of players that undervalue stuff that may be good, and you leave it in the game and eventually people realize, oh, it's actually good. Like, there is some groupthink that goes on where people don't always realize the value of something. Now, sometimes that's where sometimes devs will embark on the strategy that they'll give seemingly insignificant buffs to underplayed heroes to sort of alert people, hey, maybe you should try this thing that's good. So I think it's hard to tell right now. I mean, obviously, McGinnis would probably be a candidate for buffs if you're looking purely at the top end, but you know, even her pub stats potentially tell a different story. So we'll see. I'm really curious to see if this will work out against VP of all teams, because if it does, you know, it's just going to be your John Wick moment. McGinnis just thinking she's back.
All right. Oh, hello. Flash being a bit scary. Flash is a bouncy boy, isn't he? Bouncing around.
Yeah, just Lash things going around and around. But also, the pressure from this Bebop Sinclair lane is immense. Half the HP on the mid Guardian already down. And it says something about the absolute pressure that TAS has on this hero. That being said, Seth getting awfully low. Looking to retreat a little bit gracefully here. Jin's Mark bringing him very, very low. But the threat of TAS all the same, giving him plenty of room.
Boon received. I would like to receive a boon. Please, may I have a boon?
It's very prominent now. There's no question that of level up. I mean, effectively, that is a Deadlock version of levels there, but it's like, oh, you levels? No. We got boons. But at the very least, we still call things heroes. We haven't... Deadlock never went out of its way to call people occultists or something along those lines. It's just like, no. We keep some terminology simple.
To be honest, I feel like that's so good. Stop trying to be fancy. Stop trying to be different. Let's just, you know, let's just not be confusing. How about that?
Oh, and one going down there. Overall, relatively even in the left and right, but you look at the middle, and the middle lane, really big problem here for VP if they're not able to do something to solidify a task. Maybe caught and no, able to back away. But the problem that you have here for VP is that if you're not able to stem the bleeding in middle, TAS isn't going to stay in middle in all likelihood. TAS is going to start roaming around, or they could even redo lanes to send someone else here that they want to funnel farm to. And it's going to be a problematic for your left and right lanes that otherwise are even.
Yeah, it's definitely the Bebop effect that we are definitely seeing in mid. I think it's definitely such an important hero in the early to mid game for that reason. But we just saw in a one, we're not able to convert off of this advantage. But hold on, we have Beamov going in on the pocket. It's found a great gank. It's a beautiful gank.
Really, really important to find that there. Again, you don't want your Guardian going down super early, really in any lane, but especially into middle is unable to get away. Listic applying some good pressure off on the right. And now you talk about Guardians getting pummeled. You got Abrahams now. Right Guardian down to 50%. So VP in the laning phase really being threatening now, taking a little bit of a lead. They stabilize middle and might just be outright getting right-hand side, but Wall comes in and not enough to save the Guardian.
No, it's not. Well, it's like there will be some conversions here. Beamov taking down Saf though, and I thought for a second that maybe TAS could find something, but he's not really going to be in a position to do all that much. We got Pocket there, just chilling on 1 HP, as you do.
Got a taste of his own frogs, courtesy of Sinclair. He's like, whoa, this doesn't feel good. I've been throwing this at people from downtown. Grab Sharik, but Tornado was up, able to mostly get away. Bomb still connects, but Sharik, well, maybe he'll live if Vexing Bolt doesn't find him.
They're going to get a tower in response, so, you know, really nice. I also feel conflicted calling it a tower, you know, because the tower feels pretty consistent with the MOBA universe, but it's this, like, big stone Guardian dude, so, you know, what do we do here, ZP? Do we, you know, we're casters. What if we just say tower all the time, and then everyone says tower, but it's actually a Guardian?
I gave in and said Guardian. I'll be honest. I gave in and said Guardian. It's not as pithy as tower, but,
yeah,
you know. Honestly, it's not that bad. It's not like one of those cases where they decide to give it a 4-letter name, you know, Guardian of the Ancient Cosmos or something along those. Like, no. I'm not going to say that, but I can work with Guardian. Also, middle, even though middle Guardian is down, pressure's coming in, and you got a rotation Hoot deciding to come on over in the mid, and I kind of expected this because even though it's a rotation that maybe gets some of the pressure off, I also think you don't necessarily want to leave either Bebop or Sinclair as the take middle farm here. I think you swap things up ideally if you're Abrahams.
Yes. Well, on the left side, Abrahams will pick up that tower and Guardian, whatever, bloody hell. So, but they're going to disengage as a result. They don't have to continue forcing the fights. VP definitely not in a bad position though. You know, they got that right side, and they also proved, I think, in the last match that you know, even if you get ahead on objectives early on them, it doesn't matter too much. They're pretty stable. Well, hello. All right, we're getting some of the challenging going to get pushed off by the Magician.
Yeah, Seth being very aggressive, but really take a look at the state of the lanes here, where it has, even though Hoot came in to help deal with some of the pressure, I think Hoot is going to stay middle here, and now it's going to be Sinclair kind of roaming between middle and right-hand side, and you're going to see Tass, I think, here potentially start considering going off to the left, roaming between left and middle to look for crimes of opportunities. So the middle Guardian being taken down has opened up some opportunities here for Abrahams, but you got the pocket pressure. D-Mob has been a menace all game long here and not stopping at all with the pressure here into left, but we do have Taz coming on in for a little bit of support. No Hyper Beam, but it may not be no problem. VP getting very, very low.
Okay, so we've got Taz looking for maybe something here as assistance is on the way. So if there's a hook to be had, it could go pretty hard at this point, as there are so many teammates now near Taz. Oh, and we see Abrahams pushing the lane, and there is a nice find on Listic. So that's a good pick off. A couple of players left here if they would decide to keep pushing the lane, but they'll be pushing into a walker eventually, so it doesn't really make sense. Going to back away from that one. In the meantime, overseas Taz found a Mirage in mid.
Yeah, I mean, you see Bebop players in the EU, not the most unreasonable guess to guess overseas, but, overseas in this case, next week, perhaps. But either way, taking a look at the lanes and the setups here, this is where the rotation's gotten very, very interesting. And now, a little bit of fight here over the Gamba.
See that handsome bastard.
Listic. Also worth noting, it's Listic on the Lash this time, and Shriek on the Mirage. Didn't even touch on that. Wow.
Wow.
Pretty good positioning here on Sinclair. Still has the ability to go back in, keep pressure up on Listic. Going to do so with Taz. So Listic getting caught amongst the rooftops here. 1 minute to go until buffs and earn. And, Abraham's doing some really nice rotations to keep things back to even. And now we got our customary EU pause. Jake, what are you thinking right now? Both flow of battle within the middle, the McGinnis, and just some of the rotations from Abrahams to even things up when it looked like VP was starting to potentially get ahead.
I think this is the calm before the storm, ZP. I think we're going to see James side maybe around 15K really get active, and that's going to be the key timing for Abrahams to hit to succeed. Until then, though, building a 5K lead is a great place to start. Warden ulting, just going to maybe zone away some of these divers. But I think Abraham's getting what they want. They're keeping control of the jungles. They're getting farmed up, and they're developing a small lead. Then I think the key is going to be when they pull the trigger, when they really start to fight around the McGinnis. I think that's a super scary prospect, right? When you think about the VP, all these defensive kiting heroes, who's going to defend the walkers? Who's going to actually get up and challenge the McGinnis? I don't know the answer. I guess Pocket can afflict her. If she can tolerate that and stay in the fight, that's going to be maybe the key question. But with Kelvin healing, with some sustain from the rest of the team, and maybe McGinnis' own heals, or if she gets some bullet lifesteal, there's a real chance this McGinnis is a big problem in about 10 minutes.
You heard it here first, Dan. Hashtag McGinnis Storm. It is going to be on the way. I'm here for it. She's been gone for too long, and also still one of the best looking heroes in the game. I mean, you think about, okay, what hero has something that's final model-wise? McGinnis is probably pretty close, but shifting gears here, the Taz. The Urn is dropping on down, and so is the Hyper Beam. Together, punishing Listic, setting up Saint to grab the Urn. Abraham's keeping the Urn in motion. 3K as a lead here so far, and for VP, Listic will be up in time to contest. They still have the Lash option here, so I'm curious to see if VP goes for the Urn contest or if they just try and take objectives on the map. We'll see how the rotations come in.
Yes, it does seem like there is some response here on the rotations from VP. At least the most farmed Michaelis on the Geist is by the drop-off spot, but being alone, I don't know that that's going to really amount to a defense here. Instead, we have it conceded to Abrahams, so it's a nice pick up there for them. That's going to move them to a nice 7K buffer and advantage on the overall souls. And nothing found there from Taz on the hook, but this mid Guardian is going to go down, it looks like. There we go. Virtus Pro reacting off of losing the Urn. They take a Guardian instead. And you can see it's just a defensive posturing here from Abrahams, just waiting to see what VP are going to do. VP fanning back out, though. And at the same time, Michaelis isolated on the right side now, crossing back in towards mid. And both teams feel very tentative here on the fights, I got to say, ZP, at the moment. But we are somewhat even now on the early Guardians.
I think you're Abrahams. You're completely okay with the state of the game here so far. Of course, you take a look at the Guardians and where that's at. Still one Guardian to go, where they do need to get it for the flex slot. In case you're just tuning in wondering, hey, what's going on? You got 2 Guardians down. Where's your flex? Well, you don't get it, so you take down right. So there's a world where VP overcompensates a little bit on their right side defense just to make that a little bit hard, because you look at the builds here, you're just about the time for Abraham, 64k, decent spot in the game. You do really want that final Guardian, but you don't want to give it up in response to your Walker that's getting highly pressured right now by VP.
Well, there is some teasing, some poking from VP there. We can see that in evidence by Listic just being a nuisance, but yeah, Taz just has some near misses.
I just look at that as like, I don't think this is going to hit, but it would be wild if it did.
You never know sometimes.
I think the meme "never stop gambling" kind of applies to Bebop. Like Bebop, I could fully believe has a very bad gambling problem, just like half of our chatters for channel points, which is the true test of anything when you're predicting games here in DFN.
Well, we do have a fight brewing here on the right side of the map over that remaining Guardian at first stage. Guardian. There goes the engage there. Oh, Frozen Shelter as a response there. That's the trap. That's a very, very trapped pocket. Able to finally escape though. And I thought he was going to go down, but able to keep himself up. They're fighting between the Walker and the first stage Guardian now as well, but surely that's going to go down at this point. VP desperately trying to defend it though, and Abrahams are committing to this fight. And it looks like they might be getting forced back somewhat. Mikael S here on the chase. The most stacked player, 14k souls at the moment. Looking very strong, here's Mikael S.
Yeah, nerfs or no...
The rest of the players.
Nerfs or no nerfs, he's ready to rumble. Have the binding word out. Mikael S does not care. Shareep out of it. Both teams trading out. You look at the VPN. D-Mob super low. Not going to get away. Right now, a 3 for 2 in favor of VP. As we see together with no HP, just taking the teleport saying, okay, I'm get on out of here. Meanwhile, got Listic on one side, Seth on the other. Neither necessarily looking at each other here just yet. Obakim, though, got together. He took the subway, Dan. Tried to get away, and I'm pretty sure that was a long-range shot from downtown. Obakim finding his mark. Really nice snipe.
Yeah, super nice, and it's interesting. This game has been, I think, kind of how I feel like set it up to be, in a sense where, like, the feel of it, where, Abrahams have been slightly ahead, but like neither team has really been able to like pull, or rather, I should say for VP, like pull far behind, or for Abrahams to pull really far ahead, even though they have an advantage. It seems just so minimal. I don't know, Jake, what your interpretation is of how the game is developing at the 15-minute mark now. Even though things are even, do you see one of these teams finding a window to take a lead?
I mean, I think now the big question for Abrahams is how they actually do scale, because I think the way they're playing, they're not doing what I sort of expected, which is to say, like, really committing hard on the Walker takes, or maybe they're not quite strong enough to do that. And so we are going to probably see this get towards the late game, where McGinnis is going to be taking on Infernus in terms of that late game challenge. In the late game, I'm a little worried, because I think it seems very hard on McGinnis to not get your health swapped by Geist. Like, kind of almost defenseless against that. You have the wall, but you just have very little mobility, and kind of a problem for your maybe most farmed hero in the late game. But I'm just curious to see how Jamside plays it, how this matchup ends up going down.
We got teleports coming in to defend left Walker. It was McGinnis, played by Jamside as the main defense. Walker, though, going to go on down. But if you're Abrahams, do you get any punish here? Listic looking very unhealthy. Likely not going to be get away. Wow. And on that, overall, it's still a better play for VP. You get the Walker for 1 kill. You're actually pretty happy with that. Abraham's going to try and convert this kill, though, into Urn at the same time. And I kind of look where VP is on the map. You look at the allocation of players. This Urn may be free. And then, okay, wait. That was a kind of an oopsie there by Saint, is what I'm going to say. Drop the Frozen Shelter a little bit early, Dan.
A little bit earlier than you'd like, perhaps, but hey, it happens. Happens to the best of us. Oh, my monitor's gone black, CP. I can't see a single thing.
Your microphone also went out for a second, but it's back. It's just like, yeah, it happens to the best of us. Just like Dan's microphone going out. But all right, we got Death Slam coming on in here, over and in. See if the fall through is there, Taz. Right now, chasing into the fight. Let that hook back up in 1 second. Taking inventory of what's around. I'll drop in a little self bomb, and they knew it. Mikael S was just hiding in the corner. And there was no doubt about that for Abrams. Meanwhile, other side, Sap going to go down. Pressure here onto the walker as Sharik finishes it off.
Yeah, really good sacrifice from Michaelis. You know, just decides that, you know, he's going to try to delay as much as possible. He's going to die, but his team gets the mid walker instead. So that's beautifully set up there by VP. And that's definitely an important moment, I think, because it has been hard for VP to claw their way back into this one. And finally, the game looks even more even on the Souls. And again, this is so hard to separate these two teams. It also feels like neither team has been really interested in some of these like full team fights. It feels like there's a lot of split pushing or split fighting at the moment that's happening on the map. With that said, once again, you know, being a nuisance listic on the lash, not going to be able to survive, gets chased down. And Zergy and Obikim in enemy territory at the moment on VP side. Going to be falling off of that enemy jungle though now as I say that. And coming out onto the map here, ZP, there's a pretty even amount of map control, I would say. Ultimately, Abraham's maybe a little bit slightly behind on it, but I think we're in this territory now where one team fight can be a mid boss if you're not careful. So but both teams have to be really cautious of that. And this is going to be a great catch. This could be the catch that they need. Can they take down Sharik here? I don't know that they can chase for this one. It's a little bit deep to go for that. So you can see Abraham's expressing caution. Although how sweet would it be to get a pick off into a mid boss at this point?
Very sweet at that point. Interestingly enough, though, you take a look at the overall objectives. While it's relatively even in Souls, you know, VP has done a way better job pushing down walkers. First pressure here from Zergy. Chase down concussive concussion. Gonna get put into the dome, though, in turn. Now trying to bounce away, get some time, go in onto Bebop. Not gonna finish it off. Just barely just has live through that. Big saves coming in from Saint.
I think that was like a 1k bag as well that was dropped for Taz.
Yeah.
So nice donation. And that said, Michaelis on the right side there might run into a couple players from Abraham's there. Yeah, he's going to find Saf on Sinclair. Looks like no one's interested in that fight, but you gotta be cautious here because Taz is in middle with that hook ready at the ready here, looking for initiation, looking for an engage. VP have a few players in position on mid as well now, looking to defend that mid walker. So big pressure from Abraham's, forcing respect from VP with that rotation from them.
I look at this and it's very interesting relative to the normal VP game, where when you watch VP play some of the lesser teams in the EU, they simply just push. They continually, oh, you've got to be kidding me! There's no way you just nabbed Listic like that! Oh, and Listic is gone! Tass, the playmaker, with a juicy pick, and now everyone's in middle. You just try and go mid-boss. You got lashed down for 30 seconds. You have the possibility. The fight is still on. D-Mob over there, drops the affliction. Tries to make a little bit of room. Giving Obikim room, perhaps, to look for some assassinates. But either way, that was a nasty hook.
Yeah, and VP do have to be careful. They can't, with a player down, they can't give up another one because that will lead into mid-boss. So they be very cautious. They go for the re-engage, though. They find a fight that they like. A nice connection there at distance with the snipe. The assassination and VP chasing it down now after getting together, the tankiest player perhaps on the team for Abrahams. Now, Abrahams are not in any position to try to take a mid-boss. And in fact, you're going to be really cautious here. Abrahams definitely got to be very, very careful indeed because VP owning that mid space now. And they pick up the urn behind it. So it was such a good timing for them to be able to find the victory there, get that map control. And now it looks like an urn conversion. So VP might be actually starting to come back again on the soul deficit that had been started to be worked on here by Abrahams.
They're speeding through. They desperately just want to get the urn in before Abrahams is able to react. Hey, look where Abrahams is at map-wise. I don't think they can do much. I mean, maybe Tass lands a hook, but do you even want this fight where the rest of your team is? See, going forward, props on into the turning point, should just have it cleanly. And yeah, I mean, VP, they realized they had a brief window to just go for urn. They get it. Turn it on in, and Abrahams wisely chooses not to go in shorthanded. So again, it kind of brings us back to the situation of largely even though when you look at the map, Abrahams has been a little bit deeper on the VP side than vice versa.
Ready to stand my ground.
Well, just throwing out the hooks. Didn't catch anything just yet. VP, again, got to be cautious. A lot of Abraham's players, they are looking for a pick here. Oh, and there we go. We've caught an Infernus, but Infernus can move pretty fast. There's the Flame Dash. Trying to get out of there here. The chase is on at the moment. Flame Dash able to recover some of that HP, but Zergi's going to go down. I think we ripped the killing blow for that one. Oh no, maybe we didn't. I'm not sure. Either way, he's dead. And the fight continues here for Abrahams, pushing forwards up the mid lane. And again, 2 players down. This has to be mid boss for Abrahams.
Yep, slide down the fire ropes or whatever you want to call them there. Fire poles? What do they call that fire side? I feel like there's a much cleaner term for it that's evading me. But either way, you hop on down, you go for mid boss because VP losing too cleanly in middle. Not really with great options for a steal. I mean, you look at who's alive on the map. Instead, you look at where Sharik is going. They're going to try and turn into a little bit of a trade. You got Michaelis and Sharik going over to the right-hand side. There's going to be a fight on right hand to try and get some of Walker, but I think Abrahams is accurately apportioned back there. Maybe not. Saint goes down, and Sharik, though, goes down in turn. So, really, take a look at it here. Warden trying to defend, and Michaelis is going to get it, and still may come at the cost of his life. This is a pretty low HP Michaelis. Still has swap, though, so if you're Hoot, you have to be really careful on how long you stay in, and swap comes in, but might not be enough to save Michaelis.
It's too many man, simply too many man. However, the ties may be turning here a little bit. We do have VP trying to follow up there. They've got 3 players, but they will actually decide to disengage from that one. Couldn't find the opening they needed after all. And, you know, after all this said and done, Hoot surviving on no HP at all. Thanks to the pocket ult. And this is going to waste some time for Abrahams, who, of course, you know, they want to make good use of the, you know, the rejuve buff that's pushing all of the lanes, that's giving them map control. You know, you want to convert that into souls, you want to convert that into objectives. And so this is a small win for VP in how they have delayed Abrahams a little.
Also, I just need to really acknowledge this, you know, take a brief look at reactions to things. Taz has developed enough aura that he's turned into full copy pasta mode. That's what happens when you continue landing hooks like this as Bebop. And, you know, frankly, we have a little bit of a lull. You know, Jake, if you're VP, do you want to go against Taz on Bebop in the next map? Win or lose here?
Yeah, it's a tough call because, you know, Bebop hasn't been the most high priority hero, but the way Taz is playing, it looks like it could be a real problem. And he's honestly going to scale pretty well with this build. I think has some pretty serious gun damage, although for the most part, it seems like he's building to be just incredibly tanky. I think for the most part, this is just Listic in suffer mode. Man, it's such a hard Lash game. You've got Kelvin ulti to worry about. You've got Saf stealing your ulti. You've got Taz hooking you away. So many problems for Lash in this game.
By the way, we just got done glazing Bebop, and he rewards us with yet another hook. Taz getting Sharik thrown into the blender. This is absurd. Just one hook after another. I mean, it is Bebop domination that is going on right now, Dan, where it has completely killed the usual tempo that you see out of a VP game, where we're used to VP setting the stage. Like, they set the menu, and you just get every course as it comes. In this case, I mean, VP, it's been brutal.
Yeah, and there's the attempt at an escape here. Sagi trying to do what he can, but it's a lot coming his way. And there we go. Who's able to take him down? The Rabbit Hex, in addition to everything else, simply too much. And the Walker can go down as a result of that as well. And VP, they have to make decisions here. Do they want to try to stop this? Looking to try to find some damage here, but it's just backfiring as Jamside comes on in with a 32k McGinnis.
And behold, at the end of the game, the McGinnis is now ready to fight, and also to be ready to fight. You talked about Bebop being, oh my god, there's no way! Listic just got put into the washing machine and he is looking completely cleaned.
Oh, that was nasty. That is nasty. What a catch. These hooks have been transcendental.
You know, if Abrahams wins this series, is there any hope that anyone else could get player of the match for Abrahams after this? I'm not sure there is. I feel like Taz has put themselves up in the lead by about a factor of 10. And that last hook may have just sealed the deal. I mean, I just feel like I saw a 3-point shot go in to win the NBA Finals. That was absurd.
Yeah, it's really nice. That constant pressure of the hooks. Just think of the cooldown, how many hooks you can shoot in a game. And that each of those hooks has the potential to turn a fight around or get an initiation. You know, it is so hard to, you can't constantly be worrying about it because it can be up all the time. So it's just going to get caught sometimes. And speaking of which, we have a split push here for Abrahams, looking to take down both walkers at once. They can walk and chew gum. They can multitask. Very impressive.
I mean, everything has been going their way. The lead has ballooned to 22K, and VP can barely really rotate around the map without something terrible going wrong for them.
Well, good thing it's a best of 3 for VP, unless of course they're able to, come back in this one. We'll see if they can do that, because here comes McGinnis once again, and McGinnis just scares me at this point. This is the thickest McGinnis I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen McGinnis in a while, and in the
also,
gym,
only McGinnis we've seen.
Yeah. Yeah, technically by that end, it's also the worst McGinnis we've seen in recent times. By that same logic, really, is your glass half full or is it half empty? And well, it is about to be full empty. Virtus Pro on their amount of walkers, 1 left remaining. And I got called back in, Jake, and it's just the last 5 minutes. How does VP rotate on the map when, they've just been terrorized? How does this keep happening?
Yeah, they're in big trouble. I think McGinnis is just very online right now. Fury Trance up for Jamside. I wonder what he'll build next. Maybe like building to a Vamp Burst could make sense. Maybe though, opportunity to kill McGinnis. That's gonna be the key. Has to be, feels like the first step for VP. But it's so challenging. I mean, in playing these annoying poking fights, McGinnis with the walls, Kelvin with the dome is like creating all these problems. And I love that Hoot went for like a heavy committed Spirit ult build this game. I think that's exactly what the team needed, was a little bit more frontlining, a little bit more catch. And VP just, it feels like they're not able to take these team fights. I mean, they're just getting harassed and the range play is just not working.
All right, Abraham's looking for the last walker to even up the objectives. And yeah, Obakim just gonna get caught. Shelter goes on down, locks people in the Thunderdome, as it were. And Abraham's right now overwhelming stat differential at this point. Something that VP cannot really fight evenly. The dives keep on happening. A little bit of Death Slam action here for Ballistic, looking for some pound of flesh, but guess what? We got another dome coming out courtesy of Saint. Drops it on down, and once more, Abraham's gonna look healthy enough here. The refresher coming on in, and they're just going for the base Guardians now, and very little that VP can do to stop this stand.
Yes, they sort of paying off the internet service provider of Abraham's, collection of all of their, I don't know if they are the same one, but sort of like bribing someone, some kind of corruption. I don't think it's possible here. VP are getting completely destroyed, and there's nothing left of their base at this point. Just such a clean game from Abraham's from start to finish. They've been just nurturing a lead, and every time VP were able to maybe find something, finding an urn, get off of a pick, these types of maneuvers that you'd normally expect to help VP get, back in or ahead in the game, Abraham's would just build up their lead again. As soon as it gets equalized, they just build up the lead again. It's a super impressive game from them.
I mean, it's built up to 40K, and I have to emphasize how rare this is and how you don't usually see other teams do this. VP, their game plan is relentlessly strong macro gameplay, taking fights always at an advantage, but in some of these fights where you just get hit with the miracle hook, it really does interrupt things, not to say the least of the other good decisions that Abraham's has been making. But once more, take a look at things here. Obakim potentially getting caught, trying to get away here in turn. Abraham's taking the fight. Virtus Pro in a bit of a retreat at the moment, and no, Obakim is not able to get away. Hoot with the last stand, still leading the front line here, looking for more. Mikhail S cannot withstand. It's just frozen shelters for days. They keep on coming out here, and Sharik gonna be next to fall, and you may about to be able to stick a fork in this one, Dan, because it is very, very done.
Well, yeah, it's really just the victory lap at this point. It feels like for Abraham's, nothing doing here for the difference in souls for VP. And there we go, entering the pits. Finish it off is Abraham's, looking to claim victory number 1. The attempt at a Death Slam is immediately going to be foiled there by Abraham's as they pick up the dub here. Patron goes down, and it's the first map for them. And again, they are the picture of consistency. With as much as we built up VP over and over again, Abraham's are looking just scarier every week.
Yeah, I mean, Jake, we saw that there, and VP really did reinvigorate their play style prior to coming into this. They've made all sorts of changes, but it's that old quote where every battle plan goes awry after the first engagement, and man, oh man, Abrahams are also adapting, also staying strong, and even with the patch, didn't really miss a beat.
I thought that McGinnis build was pretty sick. I mean, Jamside is basically like all in gun damage and just absolutely ridiculous, building the glass cannon and the weighted shots. I mean, he's able to clear objectives in no time. Like, so it felt like while the Walkers lived a long time for VP, once Abrahams hit this moment where they were ready to fight, ready to seize advantage, it felt like they could just end the game in one engagement. I mean, and clearing mid boss in a few seconds, like that level of objective taking was massive from Jamside. And Jamside had a pretty rough opening to the game, right? The Lash was kind of dominating him in the lane. It looked a little bit rocky, but slow and steady wins the race. And Abraham's slow and steady. I mean, I don't know if it was that slow, but Taz with the hooks, man, this guy was a huge problem together, following up on almost all of them with the executes. Just a really well-played engagement.
Well, I got news for you, Dan. I hope you got some popcorn, if you're the popcorn type, because we're about to go to the movies here. Really, I just want to see more Taz replays. Give us the good bebop stuff. Sorry, guys, we're here, we're listic. I mean, he looked at the calendar. He was wondering if it was Halloween. He got put directly into the horror movie.
Yeah, these hooks are a problem. I think last week we saw the same thing from Abrahams, right? Where we had incredible hooks, like just dominating the space. And we talk about the hooks and dominating, you know, the early game. But when you get into the mid-late game, the hooks have the potential to be even more powerful because of how, you know, how one pick can snowball into a lot of either map control and objective, more kills on the opponents, all these sorts of problems. And that hook is up so often. So if you've got someone that can connect it as much as Taz has been, it is a huge issue. And it now, you know, we have to ask the question, do they ban Bebop?
Honestly, I mean, that's so sick, but Taz played really well this game. I do think, though, this is kind of a draft problem from VP. Like, I just feel like Abrahams responded really well. I mean, Virtus.pro's whole theme in this draft was to be able to, like, kite back forever, but, you know, in the end, it's a pretty passive concept. And when Hoot starts to go, he gets Phantom Strike and very early Majestic Leap this game. So he's like, you really can't escape the Warden. He's going to get on top of you. Feels inevitable. And then, you know, in that slow kiting playstyle, you're giving Taz just opportunity after opportunity. He misses some hooks, but like, he's just going to keep trying, keep throwing them out. And it feels like you're just waiting for that to happen on VP. You don't have much of a way to force the issue when a key cooldown is down. It's like, who's going to step up? Who's going to initiate the team fight? I don't feel like there was a hero to do that in this comp, in this strategy. And so I think Abrahams had the better draft and the better builds, not least because of their incredible flexibility and their willingness to innovate, bringing out the gun McGinnis. You know, we haven't seen that much of the full commit Spirit Warden. I thought that was really well done as well by Hoot. So
also, can we maybe consider the state of Wraith at the moment, Dan, where thinking about what Abrahams used to play, it would always be Wraith being picked by Jamside, but now it's just one simple patch, and all of a sudden Abrahams looks at it and they say, you know what, McGinnis is better than Wraith. I'm stirring the pot a little bit here, but hey, I mean, people are gonna be looking at the pick ban statistics after, and right now McGinnis up over the once champion of Wraith when it comes to doing a little bit of gun damage.
Well, I guess the one thing I'll say about Wraith is, for me, you know, whenever you're doing anything in a draft, it's all, you know, opportunity cost is one of the things. It's like the principle you need to be thinking about. You know, for what I'm paying, am I going to be missing out on something that would be better, essentially? And if you're looking for the McGinnis and the Wraith are not like one for one in terms of role. So for me, it is a different decision point there, because McGinnis has a lot more, you know, utility, has a lot more kind of area control with the ult, obviously some like sustain with the heal. I guess we're not really seeing the turrets, you know, in this iteration of the build. A lot of, you know, control also with the walls. So it just operates in a different, it gives you a lot of different bits of utility that a Wraith doesn't really give you. Wraith, you're looking for more for damage and late game carry. Whereas obviously we can see that McGinnis with the gun builds, I guess, can provide that. But at the same time, you get a lot of these other bonuses. And I think that's like one of the reasons why, you know, picking the McGinnis that makes sense from that respect, because Wraith on the damage equation doesn't add up as much as she did.
Yeah, you know, I think as good as Wraith is at making some of the more individual plays, I think the way Abrahams played this game is very much with Jamside as the center of the formation. And when you've got Taz looking for hooks to pull people in for McGinnis. You've got Saint ready to protect from and counter engage with the frozen shelter. We saw a lot of times Demov goes in for the affliction, gets a big one, but gets caught in the frozen shelter and ultimately does fall for that. Really hard to play pocket in this game when Saint was so on point with those frozen shelter catches. You can see Saint 25 assists, massive kill participation, and overall actually quite a low damage game, I would say, like across the board. Like both teams are just poking, but I think Abrahams are just actually super happy in a slow, patient status quo game where Hoot can cycle his ultimate for kills. Taz is just throwing hooks 24/7, and they knew the power of this McGinnis. I mean, we were unsure coming into the game, but clearly Abraham's jam side confident that they could go to the late game and that this would reach this absurd power level.
Well, in any case, VP came in strong against one win. Looked like they had a brand new plan, and they do look reinvigorated, but Abrahams showing that they aren't number one without a reason. VP, though, they get another map to try to turn things around. This is Deadlock Fight Night, number 30, and we'll see what happens when we get back from the break. Fight Night number 30 here in Deadlock rolls along, of course, presented by Intel. ZP here with Jake and DDK, and gentlemen, we didn't know quite what to expect in the last match. Maybe a little bit bullish on the new VP, but Jake, they ran into a brick wall built of steel, uncaring robotics. Tass, probably one of the best Bebop performances we've ever seen, just put a wrench in VP's plans.
Yeah, I honestly think Abrams outdrafted them pretty handily, right? With this poking style that VP were going for. The Bebop was a real problem for them. It felt like Saint did a fantastic job in the Calvin when the Lash did try to catch Initiation's pocket. Those are like the only two characters on VP's lineup who I felt could start the fight, who could get active. And the Calvin Dome so often was not only stymieing those initiations, but turning them into opportunities for Abraham. So I thought the build diversity was great. And honestly, it's a worrisome way to lose for VP because now I think you really do need to change up going into game 2. I think you need to have a more diverse draft and maybe change the early pick prio. But it's not obvious to me how you do that. And they're going to get first pick again. Abraham saying, hey, let's see if you can do better in the draft this time. I think giving the same draft prio again is basically because, look, you think you outdraft.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I'm super curious to see if VP will actually just get the Bebop ban in. Because I don't know. I don't know if that's the move, but it's one of those situations where it would be nice to take that, to not have to worry about that. I feel like that must be pretty tilting and very difficult to deal with. They're going to get rid of Calvin, though, instead, first ban. And presumably Abrahams would ban Viscous, right? That's like, it seems like Viscous cannot escape bans at the moment.
Yeah, Viscous seems like top prio for teams to ban away. I mean, I think Demov is insane on the Viscous. I think it makes sense to not let him have it. It's a very scary team fight when you get like Warpstone plus Phantom Strike. It's an insanely long single target stun. Not to mention the laning dominance from Viscous. So yeah, not surprised to see it go out early.
Yeah, VP being taken out. For VP, though, they decide, actually, what we don't want to deal with here is the Kelvin. And it kind of makes sense. I mean, some of the plays that Saint was coming out with were extremely timely for Abrahams, not only for getting pickoffs, but also saving together at key points. I think maybe some of the calculus here is that we're not going to try and take away the Shiv early on, even though we know you're going to go for it, but we're going to take away one of his best buddies. That does give Shiv extra sustainability. But in terms of pure meta, it's really hard, Dan, to beat the idea of Geist first pick right now. It is the one universal truth it feels like here in Deadlock at the moment.
Yeah, Geist does everything really well. So, and it kind of gives you a bit of everything. Damage, tankiness, like control, defense, offense. You know, there's like survivability. There's so much that you can kind of build around Geist. So I'm not surprised at all. And the Warden Geist opening, it does seem to be pretty consistent. I don't know if there's, I don't know if you guys disagree with that at all. I think it seems fine, but
be good frontliners, Jake. Simple as that.
Yeah, I think these are high prio. I'm actually really happy that Hoop built the Spirit Warden. I think Spirit Warden is like criminally underrated right now in terms of the value in a team fight versus like so many people so long were building the Gun Warden, which is good and like has its utility. But Abrahams, by the way, no reason for them to change the draft, right? I think you did outdraft last game. I think this is the moment VP needs to make a different call. I also didn't like their Infernus pick in the draft last game, and I think it looked terrible in the game too. It's just impossible for Infernus to play that match. So maybe that's another place you could adapt. And with no Kelvin, maybe the pocket could come in a little earlier here.
Yeah, I mean, I think they can bring in the pocket earlier, potentially, and also,
You're
I
under my
think here,
protection
if you're
now.
Abrahams, you have to realize that you stung VP pretty badly. I don't think VP will pick Bebop here. I mean, they could if they really wanted to deny, but it doesn't really feel like they do that over other powerful picks here. But I do think if you're Abrahams, I think in the same way that you kind of had to commit to the Shiv early in the last game, or rather not the Shiv, but the Kelvin. I think you probably have to commit to the Bebop pre-mid-stage bans, because if you don't, I think VP, you probably spite ban the Bebop. Like, I can't imagine that they wouldn't after what happened there. If nothing else, Listic alone would just be like, guys, I don't want this to happen again, especially if we're going to keep lashing our game plan.
I feel like Bebop's, it's a mistake to make Bebop because then Taz is just going to get Haze, right? And he's going to do like other crazy things on Haze. I think over focusing on the Bebop, as good as Taz played, I think it's more of a drafting issue that you couldn't deal with the Bebop than that like Taz is, you can't beat him ever on Bebop. Bebop's broken. But Abraham's maybe disagrees. They're like, YOLO, we're going to run it back. I mean, maybe he is just hitting like that. Although I think VP with the Yamato pick are better equipped to actually run at the Bebop, which is for me the weakness of Bebop. If you're playing like the slow passive style, I think Bebop's maybe insane, just getting the throw hooks with no punish. But if VP can like hard commit on a missed hook or any kind of mistake, I would love to see. I would love to see VP get a pocket here. Maybe Abraham's ban it away. I guess Calico's another
I was looking for, but they
thing you got to worry about
instead. Yeah. In terms of what VP want to deny here, you know, Pocket still could be denied if they're not looking to like pick it straight away. I don't know that they even need to worry about that because Pocket wasn't a problem for Abrahams in the last game at all.
You know, I will say I think it was the Kelvin that was
exactly
denying the Pocket. So I think without Kelvin, I do think Pocket is a great pick for VP here.
Fault.
On the same note, you know, Abrahams, I don't know if Pocket necessarily goes in their favor in terms of what they'd really like to pick here. I don't think they really pick Pocket as much as other teams, but you know, there's a world where they see that could be a thing and they go, okay, maybe we don't want to deal with that because precisely the entire point is that you don't have the Kelvin to add the extra layer of healing there. However, you know, I'm kind of looking at here, VP did ban the Haze because they were afraid that Abrahams would take the Haze before. Ooh, in the 7. This is the Saint 7 support play to like go unstoppable and just ulti on walkers and secure them. I do think hard pushing walkers is a better strat now that you can't deny the souls, and maybe could be valuable to like progress the tempo of the game a little bit faster than they did last game.
What's a good response for VP? They don't have any.
God, right? Well,
I mean, I'm curious if there's a world where VP take an Ivy.
I think Haze is really good here. No?
Yeah, I think if they have any worries about Haze being, although given that they went Bebop, I don't know if they actually would have to worry about the Haze. I could probably take it last. I don't know if Abrahams is going to grab Haze while also playing Bebop. I don't think they necessarily go against each other. But if you were to put someone like Taz on the Haze,
for so long.
Yeah, but also they go Holidays, so I'm not even sure they're
I actually like this. I actually really like this. I think this is like what you need to do against the Bebop and the 7 is like punish them when they make their plays. Like they're gonna go in, they're gonna try their thing. Holiday now can lasso the 7, so it's like a much more consistent. Like you don't want to lash ulti just to break the 7 ulti. It doesn't feel that good, but now Holiday can kind of do that job. And if Bebop misses a hook, like you can int on him and lasso him and kill him. And like Abrahams, they could buy the rescue beams. But remember, like the cooldown nerf now, the Holiday lasso is shorter cooldown than rescue beam, so it's not going to be nearly as consistent to save people. Now I guess do you just end with like the Infernus for VP?
Yeah, I mean, given what they like playing, I mean, Infernus versus Shiv is still very, very good. You don't necessarily have to worry about the Kelvin Shiv lane because you've gone away to ban it. But guess what? You don't get to pick the Infernus because Abrahams is going to grab it.
I think Infernus is good against the 7 too, because you could just like actually just single target kill him when he's ulting you. And same for Bebop. Like these heroes are big hitboxes, are easy to shoot. So I actually think this is a very important pick to steal away. I think almost for sure VP would have gone for the Infernus here.
Super curious where they go for this final pick now. Slot number 6.
I am the bright light.
The Haze, okay. So you're correct on the Haze.
So they're kind of tripling up on initiation on VP. There's like the problem last game was they didn't really have initiation, and this game that is not the problem. They have 3 solid initiators. I kind of like it. I think it's potentially really strong. I think this game, if Taz, I mean, if he still is hitting every hook first, like he's gonna be in a great spot. But I could see a world where Abrahams is struggling to sustain into VP being the team that can initiate on them and can force some of these mid-game objectives. I feel like this is a much more coherent draft from VP where you've got Mirage in the back line, but pretty much everybody else is like run and gun, like let's get in there, let's kill the back line. And so this game, I think, is the Abrahams Infernus who, yeah, you stole it away, but I'm a little worried for this Infernus. Is he going to be able to live? I mean, there's an onslaught of characters that can like control you and punish you. Even for Warden or something like that, like there's a lot of mobility and catch and kiting. I think this is a much better draft from VP. If they don't win with this one, it's not meant to be.
The other thing too, when I look at that I don't entirely love for the Abrahams draft is that more so than VP, like Mirage does not have to be over farmed to be effective. Mirage could be at the equivalent of the game or even a little bit under and still is giving you a lot of power in terms of the ability to split push and macro options. For Abrahams, Warden, Shiv, and Infernus all need a lot of farm, and it's actually pretty difficult to funnel 3 characters a massive amount of farm without one of them falling behind. So for Abrahams, this is a little bit ugly. I mean, the 7 is going to be more of a support 7. It won't necessarily need as much farm. Vindicta, of course, is just going to be constantly fighting. Bebop is constantly fighting, but some of the income allocation, I think, is going to be a little bit rougher for Abrahams than VP, where unless VP does the thing, Dan, where we've seen sometimes where they'll run like the super active battle Yamato where Listic isn't farming. And I actually hate when VP does that. Like, I don't think it's one of their strongest looks relative to times where VP is running comps where clearly they just want to like funnel all the souls into the Yamato.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm curious what the look will be like. I think the thing that is pretty interesting is where do they have to find. In fact, I'm going to pivot this question to Jake actually, right? So where do VP have to find the value? Because they've got a heavy initiator based comp. Are we looking at like a old school like kind of one win where we need to see VP sort of get ahead kind of early by like abusing the pick potential in the jungle?
I do think that VP want to keep the engagements relatively small numbers. I think if Abrahams can get the full 6-on-6 when they're like pretty strong, that'll be a potentially scary. I also think a lot of pressure is on Taz to snowball the game pretty well here. And honestly, Holiday was out of the meta for a while, right? I think a lot of that came from the dominance of Rescue Beam, but I'm not sure that, like, I think Holiday might be insane because he was insanely good for so long. And I think it was just this Rescue Beam spam that kind of nullified her. Yeah. And I think that now that's gone, maybe Holiday is back on top in terms of being a very strong pick.
Yeah, I think I look at that, Dan, and it's kind of interesting to me because, you know what's also interesting? TAS, where the bomb just blows Listic to Kingdom Come, and, you know, we just kind of pick up where we left off from the last game, from all appearances.
We must. We simply must. Well, Jake, I want to get your take also on like the laner matchups before you know, you go away for a bit.
Yeah, I do think this Bebop in mid, oh boy, this is really bad. If Listic dies a couple times here, okay, that's a big parry. Should stabilize him for just a second. Another parry, oh my god, this mid lane is ridiculous, but Listic is gonna have no game. He's gonna die here, yeah, and that's a very rough start.
It's kind of ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous where, I mean, yes, they're able to get one. I mean, the parries kind of go a little bit in VP's favor for a moment, but also you're feeding the robot early on, right before you're, you know, not that Bebop wants all the farm by the end of the game, but get there early in the mid game, Dan, to get some super fast hyper beams. It's not what VP wanted game plan wise heading on in.
No, definitely not, because I think well, I mean, there's so many players that are low right now. Jeez. All right, well, we're getting out of there, it looks like, on together, but yeah, especially because the Bebop commands so much control of the early pacing, and if Abrahams get ahead in terms of they're taking the initiative and you have to react, defend if you're VP. We were just talking about how VP have a very heavily initiation-based comp where they want to be the ones taking the early initiation. They want to have the advantages and map control to do that. So they're not doing that. They're having to defend. I feel like that's definitely a loss in their column.
I think the thing to look at here, as we look at middle, I mean, it's been a little bit of a bloody middle lane, but it hasn't converted into Guardian damage here just yet. So it might appear to be a little bit worse for VP than it actually has been. I mean, you always have to apply a lens of scrutiny to any early kills you get here in Deadlock with being early kills. The stack charge over here on the Mirage can at least make it so you don't dive in and potentially take down Saint to, you know, we were talking about, hey, what can I expect here? In the draft, Jake mentions like, yeah, I'll probably Saint on the more support 7, and of course that is absolutely what it ends up being. But things stabilizing a little bit here, although as I say that, still low HP across the board when you look at the top part of your screen.
Oh, look at everyone going in for these kills. Virtus Pro are getting active on this lane, but it looks like it. I mean, everyone is playing within an inch of their life at the moment. It just feels like it could backfire for anyone at any given moment, but somehow no one's dead. They have calculated things correctly, and no one has died. But I mean, to fall back on the lane a bit more passive VP for the moment. That's wow, how do you hit that?
Just threaded the needle. Said, hey, look, if Taz can hit the most miracle hooks of all time, I at the very least can throw a knife and hit someone across the map. Looking at the Guardian status right now, though, things reasonably even. 17k to 16k. Taz, though, about to get Hyper Beam, and, you know, that's kind of the other underrated thing we don't talk about as much for Bebop, where, you know, we kind of mentioned when people play Pocket, you can use really aggressive afflictions and get an advantage in lane that way, but also Hyper Beam oftentimes just used for push as soon as it comes online in a lane. So I think middle about to get a little bit more in depth, although you have to wait till the lasso attempt is done. So the fact that Holiday's there does like tamp down on what the Bebop can actually do.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe there's a positional way to circumvent that for Bebop. Find some, you know, like come off the rope or something, I don't know. But either way,
they use the lasso.
We'll get the aggression. There is the Hyper Beam coming on through, and looking to convert this one. No lasso to deny this. And there we go. We get the parry on the Guardian as well. Full damage trying to be applied to that Guardian, chunking it down pretty significantly. Still staying out there, looking for the harassment. In the meantime, we get some of these early buffs coming on up. And Michaela's picking up his on the guys. The casting buff for him.
Actually smart, like just going to the corner, dropping the punch, getting the Shadow Transformation. Is Taz gonna live? Taz lived. Hoot got the last little bit of damage. Taz is gonna make the great escape with like 2 HP. Also 7. Getting real low here. Hazelo in turn. The battle of no HP right now. Obakim finishes it off. So VP desperately getting something they kind of needed, but the middle Guardian is down, and that means the whole map may be Taz's here shortly.
Yeah, definitely have to be careful about that. Right now, defense set for VP on the left side, 3 players. And with that, you know, they have the option. Do we keep the 3 players here? Do we try to push this? Well, if they do try to, there's 3 players also for Abrahams on the other end, and there's a 4th here in the Vindicta that we're following currently, Saf on the side. So you got to be cautious there if you're VP. We get caught here. Taz obviously looking for picks. He's going kind of aggressive. We can see on the mini-map there, Taz, like coming in from the side. Let's see if he can find anyone here. As we see VP closing the distance on this one, looking for those engagements, but not going to be finding them. Again, just a tentative back and forth here. The hook is sent, and it's going to connect. But of course, Mirage can tornado away. It's fine, no drama.
The fact that connected, though, we went away on the camera for the hook. It's like, wait. Did we get the other camera view? It's like, did he get it? You just see someone slowly getting hooked on in. I mean, it's actually, at this point, I just believe. Regardless of circumstances, I see hook go out. I believe. I have not been this pumped for a Bebop a very long time, but, you know, perhaps some plans are brewing here. Death Slam, ready. Listic finds 2, drops on down. Is Falther going to be there? You got the Hyper Beam acting as cover together. Still going to get finished off by Obakim, so the engage looking pretty decent for VP.
Yeah, and also Beamov is coming in with the lasso as well, on from the side. So, and there's an engagement. It gets a catch onto the Vindicta. I think Saf is having to fight for a life as well, and Saf's going to go down on the side of this. VP were just coming across to actually help this push on the left lane, but they get a pick instead. And with that pick, it looks like they're going to back away from this one. And that tower, that Guardian on the left side is going to stay up for now. And I mean, Abrahams have really decided that they want to make sure that VP don't get it. They've been reinforcing that a lot, but now they may have to put their efforts elsewhere. VP spreading across the map again. And it looks like there might be an opportunity here to push back the left side of VP. It's a 3v2 in favor of Abrahams.
Abrahams. See how deeply they go in here. Shiv, for now, doesn't want to go in. Meanwhile, VP, they are rotating our Listic. Coming on in. Reverse course here from Holiday. Shadow Transformation going to be used here early. Together in the crosshairs. Flying Strike. Deep diving right now is Listic. On the other side, the robot of doom, Tass, here, ready to go. No hyper beam, however. Meanwhile, Saint just gonna use Storm Cloud to secure the Guardian. VP still kind of poking on the outskirts here. They want a little bit of the action, but do they really? Listic getting very, very low. And actually gets caught by Together, unable to get away. As Abrahams continue to make their presence on the map known. Now up.
Yeah.
2 Guardians to
Yeah,
1.
that's going down.
Take a look. You got, wait, another bomb here. Taz, this time. Looking for D-Mob, gets hit with a quick melee, knocked off and dead. Dan, this left side has just turned into a quagmire for Virtus Pro. Is Dan here? There's a little bit ago.
I'm back. Everything blacked out again. Every so often, every few hours, everything just blacks out. I don't know why. If I'm being hacked or what's going on, who's hacking me? Is it you, ZP?
Well, you see, they're actually not getting hacked. We have the stats. Your PC's been fine. You just, you know, it's a rare neurological thing. It's actually all user error. So, you know, I get that one checked out. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Looked at the stats. No.
Damn. Sorry, back on
it's actually a side effect from watching Bebop play that's too good. It just fries your neurons.
That's true. Well, looks like we'll get a disengage here from VP, not liking this fight in mid. And I'm worrying for them right now. They're 7k souls overall behind. And someone who also might be worrying about them is named Jake.
I am worried. Lash ulti. Oh, just barely evaded by Vindicta. And this Infernus is slowly but surely coming online. Jamside surviving a couple of gank attempts there in the side lane while we're focused on left lane. And that's allowed him to kind of come back into the game. And Taz, meanwhile, just doing his thing. Securing hooks, securing kills. And I mean, Abrahams, they're getting what they want out of the game. And Hoot, very farmed on this Warden. Curious to see actually how Warden is building this game. Is he going to go once again for that Spirit initiation?
Yeah. And, you know, I gotta say, as I look at this more and more, I feel like, you know who doesn't like this game at the moment? Bebop mains that they're watching here. Because they're just like, no, don't nerf Bebop because of this. Don't do it. As Together gets lassoed and cut down by Listic, courtesy of the power slash. But there's always that effect right now I see in the community where when something does really well in DFN, the people that play the character that's doing really well, there's like this foreboding sense of terror that takes over.
Well, it's been interesting because Abraham's here. We're trying to run this on, but they get kind of blocked here by the 2-3 players on the right side by VP. And VP actually reinforced with an extra player. They got 4, and now they're trying to chase down the urn. They're going really aggressive for this one. The walk under the walker is where the fight's going to take place for the moment before VP are forced to have to disengage, respect the cloud, the storm cloud that's been unleashed, and now this gives an opportunity for a re-engage for Abrahams, and they're going to be able to take down Zergy off the back of that. The urn is going to be collected by Hayes in the meantime, and that maybe there's a mad dash to be had here. There's an interception from Taz on the Bebop, trying to catch the urn, trying to force the drop, but you're chasing Obikim. And Obikim is hard to find, but he's going to get caught.
I'm gonna be honest, I just saw Tass on the map. You just see the mini-map icon of Doom chasing Hayes is like, I don't know if he's getting away. Like, the chase down has been a little bit too good for Abrahams here today. And the prophecy does get fulfilled. Now, just gonna be a quick turn in where Tass's power grows. Turns in the urn, gets all the bonus from there, and meanwhile, Listic going up, down. AB start back to base, I suppose, as that's just gonna be it. You know, you try and find your juke attempts there, but oftentimes players at this level, that they'll find a way harder to get away than you might expect. But either way, look at the overall game state. I mean, we are nearing about 13k of a lead here for Abrahams, and VP again, they have not been able to get into their flow state for macro. Wait, Tass got another.
They're going to be very careful about this Haze. That single target damage is pretty nasty. Some Mirage there as well. Being pumped full of damage at the moment. VP trying to get this tower here. Just being a nuisance is Hoot on the Warden, but can't deny that one for too much longer. Now we're all watching Taz for a moment. You've got to ask the question about the hooks, but we've got a Death Slam coming on through, but it is a big last stand coming on out defensively, trying to get the hell out of this one. Abraham's looking to reset this fight. And in the meantime, VP are pushing that left lane pretty hard, in addition to losing this Walker. So VP need to convert something. They can't just let this Walker go for free.
Well, guess what? That Walker, it went for free. Exactly where that went. And they don't really get much on the left-hand side. And I mean, look, maybe it's because you're 20k behind here, but this is I mean, this is a VP that's a little bit punch drunk from how some of these early fights have gone. Normally VP, I mean, they know exactly what to do and they have a little bit of a lead. There's probably no better team in the game of turning small advantages into big ones. But I don't think they deal with this level of just micro level dominance that's been coming in from Abrahams on continually setting fights to their advantage just from small things, or, you know, oftentimes this game, a hook out of TAS.
Hey, give it to me straight, Jake. Is it draft? Did they mess up the draft?
I do think maybe the third initiator was a little bit too much, but it's just Abraham's outplaying. Like, even that's a great moment where they're pushing the side lane. They leave Hoot basically solo to defend, and he can't defend the Guardian, but he does so much damage and wastes a massive amount of time. I mean, VP thought they would go Guardian for Guardian there, but it turned into Guardian for Guardian and Walker, which is exactly what you wanted as Abraham to start opening the map up. Now more space to make plays, more space to hunt down some of these kills. And this is a spot where the triple initiator feels pretty weak, where, yeah, you can catch people, but I don't know if you actually can you know, finish your plate if you do start the fight like that. I like that Shiv going for some melee build. This game is pretty interesting to see if he might go for like crushing fists or something in the or unstoppable closer in the late game, because you're once again for VP having a little bit of a frontline issue. I feel like Listic just doesn't have the farm to do it. It's a big ulti though, and a kill into Hoot is exactly the one you wanted, especially with his ulti off CD. It's not what you want as Warden. You would love to have gotten that fight off.
And good disengage from them too, because reinforcements has arrived there for Abrahams on the left side, and VP, they might be able to isolate the 7 there. Saint is in the enemy jungle, but he's going to TP away, so he's going to be safe for now. In the meantime, the rest of VP, you know, with that group up in mid, also might be in a position as they get this Guardian to maybe convert a kill. There is 2 players coming in on the back there. There is one spotted together. Full HP Shiv. That's a scary sign. It's a scary prospect to have to be up against. And Shiv is going to get hell swapped here, but it is the Geist who is in mortal danger. Michaelis trying to escape here, trying to run, trying to juke, but there's more players. It seems like there's more players on the chase every couple of seconds, and that looks like it could be a mid boss, but there are kills still to be chased down here, going towards that urn.
Let's go mid.
Yeah, you hear the mid call come in from Abraham's. They decide, yeah, we're all here. We should go for it. And VP, they just may be taking the sad urn consolation prize. And I think you take a look at it, if Lash just hauls, you'd think would be able to get there, but, you know, it may be a bit of a conversation. Lash going for the turn-in, staying together, already moving. The Rejuvenator is prioritized, and surely this is just an urn that gets turned in, but, you know, while the income boost is going to come in from VP, now having to deal with the Rejuvenator, still down overall in income, it's a tougher spot to be in.
Yeah, I think the artistry now is going to be, how do you lose well against the Rejuve? You're going to concede some souls because of the map controllers converted, but you know, again, you know, just because I think you're so smart, Jake, what's the way? What do you think is the best way to like mitigate or limit Abraham's getting of an edge off of the Rejuve if you're in VP shoes? How do you do that in this spot?
I mean, I think VP are doing what they can, which is to be staying grouped up. If players come in alone, you can punish them. Abraham's are not that far ahead, right? They do need to be grouped up to have an advantage. Unstoppable on 7 is a problem. I think Hoot is about to buy as well. And then this is going to be the big push. So VP, they just need to defend walkers here and try not to lose buildings. But I just love that Abrahams aren't even attempting to group. Their full spread, which is the most efficient way to be on the map. They're stealing a ton of jungle right here from the enemy side, and they're basically not falling into the trap from VP. And VP, I guess you're supposed to push out here, but it's so scary. I mean, you just don't have vision on heroes for VP. You don't know if you're pushing into a full stack of group players. And meanwhile, Abrahams, they still have like a minute or two before they, or maybe like about a minute before they really need to push to get value to this Rejuve. And so I feel like the way Abrahams is playing, I mean, the Virtus Pro, the best they can do is hold on to walkers, but they're going to get very far behind here.
Also, one thing that I kind of feared looking at the draft in terms of income allocation, in terms of who would be getting... Oh, you can't... Wow! How does this keep happening for Sharik? This time Sharik getting hit, and that is... Oh, boy. It doesn't matter if it's Listic on the Lash or Sharik on the Lash. You know? It just happens.
Yeah.
Bebop is out here. Where we didn't really talk about even the lore element here, where the entire like Lash Bebop feud. How is it even a rivalry? Lash is just continually getting his ass kicked. Is what I'm seeing at the moment.
And it's funny because VP, I think Jake's totally right. They're kind of afraid of moving out, but it's just the nature of the thing. And I don't think Taz is even looking for a pick, but Lash is just there. So it's like, okay, I'll give it a shot, have a stab. Well, after all is said and done, the lead, I mean, it hasn't gotten too far away from Virtus Pro. All things considered, you know, this many minutes into a rejuve, I feel like if you're Virtus Pro, you can be somewhat like content with the fact that Abrahams hasn't gone too far ahead just yet.
Oh, quick little parry, close range. The read from Listic. But taking a look at the overall situation on the map, Abraham's a lot more interested in middle Walker here at the moment. In it from both sides. Listic actually getting pretty low, getting chased down by Who at the last stand, and Listic bullied back to spawn as the middle Walker falls. The lead continuing to grow for Abrahams. And by the way, you know, in terms of meta items, you kind of notice Dan and trends. We haven't really talked about that in trends a lot, but weighted shots feeling pretty popular at the moment. Whether you look at Tass's build together just a moment ago, definitely coming up the item rankings, as it were.
You gotta do it. We have this left Walker under assault here now for Abrahams. They try to pressure this, but were fought back before. But now the full force of the team is here. The Storm Cloud is doing a lot of damage. And it's just so hard. This is such a good control space. If you don't have anything to stop this, you have to get out of there. And it's being allowed to do far too much. And that Walker is going to go very easily now that VP have been forced back. Oh no, VP are in so much trouble here. They're at one map down if you're just joining us. So this could be the end of the road if they can't find a recovery here. No, Lass as well again.
This is, look, if you hate Jacob Lash, if you think Jacob Lash is one of the worst people in this virtual earth, let me tell you, he has never been served a bigger piece of humble pie than these last two maps. Just sheer Bebop domination, where every time we look at Bebop, it's just a Lash just getting fed. Oh boy, it, man, oh man. I mean, yeah, a little bit comedic timing on some of these swaps, but Jake, it's a 30,000 lead right now for Abrahams. They have dictated the pace of all the fights in the last 10 minutes or so. What is the light at the end of the tunnel right now for VP?
Next week, this one's looking almost over to me, ZP. I mean, this earn is very risky for Abrahams to attempt, but and BP are trying to contest it, but I think they're being actually caught. And I'm gonna have that lasso. This is an unstoppable 7. Saint does go down first though.
Death slam.
Maybe a cross. Barrel on in. Kills there for VP. They got 2 players down already, and so at this point, the soul differential maybe not too important. What else can VP get off the back of this Hoot though? With that last stand, they just are forced to have to run away from this. They have to respect the last stand. And in this moment, this is going to yield 2 kills here, evening up things here for Abrahams and perhaps swinging the fight in their favor. Sneaky though. VP able to still get the earn, so they come away with something. And they actually reduce the deficit down to like 17, 18k. Uh-oh. Abraham's in trouble. Just going to have to rip the ult, but I mean, one ult's better than the other, I guess.
I mean, getting the earn, I mean, it's not bad for VP. It helps keep the soul deficit from getting absolutely ridiculous. I feel like the problem are all the factors that have kind of brought you to this point and how Abrahams is playing, how VP has really struggled to get initiation off in a lot of these fights. I honestly thought someone was going to get hooked there. I looked at that. I'm just like, I don't know how this is going to work out, but I'm just expecting someone to come in, and didn't happen that time. But yeah, I mean, you think about VP and how they dictate fights with really good lane presence and push priority, and you know, D-Mob usually with a lot of map control when he plays Holiday, they'll be able to continually set up lassos to keep the opponent off balance. It's Abrahams that's kept VP in a very staggered state for a while now. And look, you know, we've talked about a lot on Taz and Bebop, but it really kind of has been the linchpin of continually keeping VP off guard and, you know, limiting how confident they feel in being able to go about the map.
And the scaling is a little bit worrisome for me. Just in the case that if you look at VP, Haze is pretty low, Yamato is pretty low. If you just compare them to like the Shiv, the Infernus, the Warden, they're all around 27k there. So like that's like a tier 3, tier 4 item ahead that Abrahams are on these like key scaling heroes. So that's going to start giving them bigger and bigger edges if that continues. So big problem there, because, you know, I didn't even mention Zergy on the Mirage. You know, usually you're looking at the Mirage to ensure that they are getting farmed throughout the game and that they can just pack a punch, pack an absolute wallop no matter what. But like Zergy is a little bit behind as well.
Also, the team fights may have just gotten way worse for VP. The Lightning Scroll and Leech coming in. I mean, Abraham's getting some very serious 6K buys at the end where, you know, it's kind of been lost in all the talk of the Bebop madness, but Saint has also really picked very good times for Stormcloud. I mean, Saint went out of their way to rush Unstoppable, make it so that you weren't going to get it interrupted, and has used Stormcloud as a very tactical pushing tool for the most part, where you're going in for a push, you get high elevation, drop the Stormcloud, and it's kind of a, well, challenge us for this if you dare sort of ability. It's actually been super, super effective. But now, D-Mob trying to make their moment known here with the lasso. Is it going to be enough, Dan?
Yeah, it's looking very difficult. The blink comes on in as we try to get an escape here. Oh, 10 HP, and they're finding the burn damage will finish off the Holiday. And Abrahams are lighting up the kill feed at the moment, finishing off everybody. This looks way too one-sided at the moment. But Pro getting wiped clean from the server, and just a couple players left here. And I don't think there's any way to stop this. It's just overwhelming numbers again, and VP just falling. They just don't have the damage output. They don't have the tank ability, and now they are going to lose another rejuve as well.
You know, we kind of look at the, you know, Jake, back in the day, you were the connoisseur of question marks. Tass, after that team fight, just dropped the well played. And, you know, for a lot of people, they might say it's a little bit of BM, but when you've had the series that Tass has, oh, you've got to be, what? Velvicum goes in for a steal and still gets hit for that? Like, oh,
yeah, it was
God.
desperate. Like, all right, that wasn't that hard of a hook, but that was more just the comedic timing. The comedic timing from Taz, off-screen hook. And yeah, I mean, we're just at a spot where you're just out of control for Abrahams. The team fighting is really good, and I think VP are feeling the frustration. I mean, trying to initiate with their comp, but Abraham's done a great job of not allowing those comeback fights to be unanswered, right? VP does find some pickoffs here and there in the disadvantage, but Abrahams is always close enough where they can stall for time, they come, and then they punish you. They take more than you earn away, and they never give VP this time to get full map control.
Yeah, I mean...
This earn fight, I mean, like, do you even fight this for VP? Maybe you have to, but it's a scary prospect. No Stormcloud online, though, so maybe you want to play this a little slow for Abrahams. It is a pretty important asset to their team fight, considering how much Saint has invested into that skill.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to go for it. In fact, right now, they think they might have a beat on Saf. See if they get a pick here on the Vindicta, though.
This is desperate.
It is desperation, but what are you going to do here? Last Stand comes on in. Hoot to the front together, already chopping down Sharik. Quick swap here in from Mikhail S. as Virtus Pro hopes to find the one in many millions chance to somehow turn this one around, but they're down 2. Obikim gets the parry, but it's full health bars all around, and the damage keeps on pouring through. It's yellow across the way. Not a single rejuvenator was lost. And for Abrahams, it is now a bit of a victory lap, Dan.
Yes, it is. Certainly victory lap. I mean, they've been so stable, so solid. I feel like, you know, these guys could just be the reserve currency. They're stable. You can invest. You know, it's not going to go anywhere. Going to be totally sorted. Abrahams just decimating the base. Not really anything that VP can do at this point. And I mean, so much I feel like so much respect towards Abrahams at this point. They're just like, you know, VP, a team that looks so good until you see them run into Abrahams. And what does that mean about Abrahams? Because Abrahams have been winning these games pretty clean as well. Let's not forget.
Yeah.
There hasn't been moments when they've had to even make a comeback. They've just been always ahead. And anytime things are closing in terms of the distance between the advantage and disadvantage, they just create more advantage. It doesn't seem like it's ever an issue. As there comes the Stormcloud, and it's an explosive finish.
Yeah, I mean, they got everything they need here. Hoot with the Last Stand. Finishes off anyone near the Patron. The Patron is gone. And Abrahams retain the crown. Absolutely dominant from Abrahams, especially in the second map. And what more can you say? I mean, VP, their fundamentals are very good, especially when they get ahead. But Abrahams playing the micro elements here so incredibly good. Interrupting VP's flow, not letting them get into that macro cycle that they're so good at. And, you know, Jake, we'll talk about MVP in a moment. I think clearly everyone in the world knows who it's going to be. But, you know, your thoughts on the series overall?
Yeah, I think this is the moment at which Abrahams have just really put themselves on top with a bullet, right? Like, they've been winning 2-0, and like you said, it hasn't been that close, right? Like, VP has not won a map in a while against Abrahams. And honestly, I don't know that they've even really made the games down to the wire, right? It feels like Abrahams has always had control, has always been able to, convert advantages in the mid game and outplay on the micro level, outplay as well in the macro level. And this is sort of starting to look like the birth of a dynasty in Europe. And kind of surprising because this Abraham squad came sort of out of nowhere. We were familiar with some of these names. Others were newcomers to the scene. But these kinds of wins back to back to back, we're way past the point of excuses and coincidences. VP have tried a lot of different approaches, and it seems that Abrahams have just batted them away at every chance.
Yeah, they look so sick right now. I mean, it really feels like we have a team that is unbeatable in Europe right now. Look at that, 2-0, 2-0, 2-0. I mean, what did VP have to do to stop them? I mean, firstly, we talked about the drafts a little bit, and I feel like if VP had a perfect draft, Jake, how do you think it would be significantly closer, or is Abraham's just too good?
I mean, even the draft stuff, it's like, I don't know, like that's part of your skill as a team, right? Like if you're putting yourselves in a position to have a better draft, that's part of what makes you a better team. Just the reality of MOBAs, right? Like you need to have the flexibility, you need to have the understanding of how to play different drafts and how to use, all the tools at your disposal. And that's part of the reason that Abrahams is the best right now. And I don't think you can really separate the success in the drafting phase from the success in game, from the success in laning, the success in team fighting. I mean, they really have a deep understanding of the game, and the way they play has really impressed me. It's shown me a lot of builds where I'm like, man, I want to try some of these builds. I want to see like that approach to the game, bringing the melee Shiv out. We really haven't seen that very much for quite a while. The Spirit Snatch Warden playing like a very early Spirit Initiation Warden looked great from Hoot this game. Another thing that I think is going to be interesting to see. So it's just awesome to see these innovative players push the limits and show what's really possible in Deadlock right now.
Alrighty, well, we're coming to what may be the most predictable part of the night, at least for this last match. Dan, Jake picked it, but you get one guess as to who the player of the match presented by Intel is.
Paint.
Yeah, clearly. No, come on. We got it. The one and only, it is Tass.
I mean, Saint played really well this series. Like all of this team is playing really well, but Tass just got the highlight reel hero in this game. And honestly, in both the early draft, I was wondering if it was a mistake to draft Bebop as early as they did in game 2, but clearly it was not. I mean, this guy just, it's not single-handedly, but he is blowing the game wide open, and this has to be so frustrating for VP. It's like you feel like you're losing to one player, which is sort of the tilt-inducing. It's not really what's going on, right? The rest of the team is playing very well around these hooks to make them such a threat, but just on an individual character, Bebop is that feast or famine, and I mean, Taz ate so good today.
That right there was perhaps the main course for, in terms of overall impact on the game, not necessarily the definitive point, that last highlight, Dan, but also kind of one of those things where you talk about, if players had an invisible tilt meter, I just don't know how you react to that. That's kind of one of those things of like, that just happened. Because that was also kind of the cherry on top after Tass was just terrorizing. It was Listic on Lash in that game. And yeah, I mean, the highlight reel is almost entirely just long range hooks. And don't forget even that time where he got dove in middle in the second game by Sharik and just barely managed to come on through and, defend with a well-timed rocket punch and a little bit of fancy moves.
Yeah, I think Taz is really interesting because Bebop is a character where in theory it's supposed to be, I think, like one of the specialist characters, and we're not even in an era of Deadlock yet where there's a lot of good Bebops because it's kind of hard to also practice. It's also kind of hard to practice some of the hooks, right? Because you just have to get the hours in. But eventually there's going to be custom maps where you'll be able to like hook, against bots that are jumping around on Lash and all sorts of stuff, and people are going to get even better with these hooks. But for now, Taz combines great game sense with really good hook accuracy and creates so many opportunities. It's crazy. How do you ban against this team right now?
Yeah, like you could be banning the Bebop, but I mean, look at the stats together on the Shiv. This is not even a Kelvin game, right? He's just destroying them on Shiv. Like this is an out of control Shiv game completely. Saint on the support 7, another huge problem. Who looks amazing. I love this Warden build. Like this is like the Phantom Strike as well. It's like typically Warden has a lot of problems being kited, but I don't know how you're supposed to kite a majestic leap into Phantom Strike Warden with a lightning scroll. Like good luck ever getting away from this guy when he wants you dead to rights. And the silence wave as well to ensure that any kind of counterplay can be stifled. just the really, really impressive performances from everyone. Everyone understands their roles. Even Rescue Beam still being built by Vindicta there, showing that the item still has a lot of potential, especially maybe for flyers and heroes like Calvin that can really pull somebody very far to safety.
Also, one thing that we haven't really touched on here today that we probably should take a moment to just reflect on, Rescue Beam, endangered. It was hunting season, and Valve decided to chop it down to size. You look at this game here, you got Rescue Beam on Vindicta, and that is it, unless I'm blind, which is always a possibility. But either way, the era of 3 Rescue Beams per team and all the Rescue Beam spam that went along with it, Dan, it got curtailed, which also, by the way, probably helps Bebop. Like, I think if Task plays Bebop and does what Task did yesterday, overall, a lot of those hooks just get resolved with, Rescue Beam. Not the case this time around.
And additionally, Holiday too. We didn't see like a great day for Holiday just yet, but I think that is another really big one, because I think like Jake's, in fact, actually, we even saw, I think, was it a Holiday last week in the NA portion? And even with all of the Rescue Beams and stuff, we saw, I forget which player it was now, but like we saw just absolute domination in the early game with the Holiday. So it's still a really good character. So this should definitely raise it up on the value. And for Bebop too, maybe that would be part of the consideration for people, because Bebop certainly has so many pluses. In every stage of the game, Bebop, if you have a skill player, can really do a lot for your team. So, and I love that we have Taz kind of being the player that's showing us this, because before it would be Overseas, but right now it's got to be Taz.
Well, that brings us to the end of EU, but we still got NA to go. And by the way, this is where we'll just be very straight up with you. As we look at the schedule here, it's going to be a best of 5. That's right. It's going to be Valhalla versus Hydra Nation, where they wanted to change their name to Avengers, and I mentioned it to production, but I think production just said, nah, you're still Valhalla, at least for now. So, hey, if you're watching Valhalla, I relayed the message, but sometimes people always say, no, we're not doing that today. Maybe next week. But they did want to change their name to Avengers because they want to avenge NA. The new Hydra Nation, they dropped Poppers, they dropped Fish Cake, and they brought on low main and AVG of Melee Creeps, and there was a whole roster shuffle, which is why Melee Creeps is not here. They wanted to play with the original roster. It was a whole thing, but yeah, we got NA coming up next. And I hope everyone stays around and enjoys, because if nothing else, everyone's going to be real chatty about what is going on. The community is invested. There's been Deadlock Fight Night, number 30. EU wrapped up, NA coming up next.